All right. House Bill 660, Commission to Study the Division of Rehabilitation Services Student Job Training Reformation Act. This bill establishes a commission to study the Maryland State Department of Education's Division of Rehabilitation Services. The bill specifies commission membership, the chair of the commission, DOORS must staff the commission. Commission members may not receive compensation but are entitled to reimbursement. The commission must evaluate and make recommendations on specified subjects related to the improvement of DOORS programs and services. They must meet at least 5 times between certain dates, and they must report their findings to the governor and General Assembly by December 15th, 2022. You don't have an amendment in your packet, but there is an amendment, and essentially this would strike the assistant superintendent as the chair of the commission and allow them to elect their own chair, and then it strikes 2 DOORS employees from the commission and replaces it with 1 representative from the Department of Disabilities, which is kind of an amendment that all the stakeholders asked for.
Yeah, it seems to me there should be a chair, designated chair. I mean, we can let them,
MSD asked to not have that particular individual as the chair, not that they, and
who do they
not that they
want?
don't trust their own person, but this is supposed to study their department, and they didn't want that, the head of that department in charge of the work group to study their department. That's what the language says. It strikes 2 members who are employees of DOORS, and it adds a representative from the Department of Disabilities, and then it would change the chair.
The motion is to approve the bill as amended. Is there a second? Any discussion? Any opposition? Seeing none, the bill passes for 10-0-1. Ladies and gentlemen, look, and this is not passing judgment on the next 18 or 20 bills. It's not required we pass them all. If you think it's bad policy or unnecessary, you can say move unfavorable. So I'm just because they're on the list doesn't guarantee their passage. Just because they passed from the House to the Senate doesn't ensure they have the kind of policy that we want to adopt. They may be very well intended. They might be good bills. I'm just reminding people we have the authority and right to decide what goes to the floor. Huh?
Are we going to jump around a little bit on the list, or you
Well, I
want
only
to?
did that because she was the only committee counsel here.
Got it.
Let's keep going, Stacy, while everyone gets settled. April and
Okay.
Alexis get settled.
HB 664, Child Care Programs, Maryland Infants and Toddlers Program Information and Assistance. This bill requires, beginning on July 1, 2023, a child care program to make information regarding the Infants and Toddlers Program available to the parent or guardian of each child younger than 3. The information must be made available at least annually, and on request of a parent or guardian, a child care program must assist with scheduling a time and convenient location for the local lead agency to provide the appropriate screening. The Maryland State Department of Education must provide each child care program with information about the toddlers program sufficient for the child care program to carry out the requirements of the bill. There is no amendments and no opposition.
And seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, 664 will go to the floor with a 10-0-1 vote. Let's stay with Ms. Goodman, because she also has some other responsibilities she's working on. So we'll take hers and let her get to
House Bill 812, Montgomery County Board of Education data disaggregation policy and racial disparity comparisons. This bill requires the Montgomery County Board of Education to adopt a data disaggregation policy that applies to any data collection reports or internal documentation by the county board, and 2, includes a category for each racial and ethnic group that constitutes at least 5% of the students enrolled in the public school system. The bill also requires the county board to include the impact on each specified racial and ethnic group in any racial disparity comparisons completed by the board. There are no amendments, no opposition, and we have a local letter.
Discussion, seeing none, 10:01. Let's stay with Ms. Goodman. 966.
House Bill 966, Higher Education, Academic Credit for Prior Learning Examinations, Policies, and Procedures. This bill requires by October 1, 2022, each public institution of higher education to develop and implement policies and procedures for awarding academic credit for prior learning examinations. Unless the institution provides evidence that a higher score is necessary, an institution must award academic credit for minimum score on various examinations. The policies and procedures must indicate the manner in which the academic credit will be awarded and include procedures related to the transfer of academic credits awarded from prior learning examinations to another public institution of higher education. Each public institution and EHE must post the policies and procedures by December 31 each year. Each public institution must report to EHE and the General Assembly on specified metrics. There's no amendments, and there was no opposition at the hearing.
It's been moved and seconded. Debate. Any problems? Seeing none, 10:01 to the floor. And feel free to ask questions. 995.
HB 995, Early Childhood Development Child Care Scholarship Program Alterations. You recall, this committee passed the Senate version 920 earlier. There's been some behind-the-scenes negotiations because of the federal government does not allow its funding to be used for ineligible payments, meaning essentially anyone who would qualify under presumptive eligibility until they were determined to be eligible. There's been a deal worked out with the House, and what that deal would do is it would push the presumptive eligibility piece to July 2023, require a study to determine future costs, how much it would cost the state to make those costs during that period. It would eliminate a copay for certain eligible individuals. It would eliminate the requirement to seek child support, which was in the bill that this committee voted on, and it would require the comptroller to pay within 5 days of receiving an invoice.
So this is the language that's been worked out in the
Yes.
House bill?
Yes,
So will we have to amend the Senate version to conform?
yes.
Okay. I think all parties are happy with this. If you think it's good policy, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Debate, seeing none.
This is the House bill. This is the House cross-file, and the House is, right. I'm sorry, yes, and the House is amending SB 920 to reflect these changes that I just described.
I saw it on the list. I thought it was sitting here, but it's just a cross-file column. Okay. Seeing no objection, 10:01 to the floor on 995. 10:30.
10:30. So I don't have the amendments in front of me for this, but we have them. Essentially, let me describe it and then we'll talk here. So House Bill 1030, Maryland Higher Education Commission Procedures and Operations and Alterations. The bill requires that by April 15th each year, the Office of Student Financial Assistant send notification to each individual who applied to the Delegate Howard P. Rawlings Educational Excellence Award, indicating whether or not the student is a recipient of an award and if applicable, the amount awarded to the student. Additionally, each open meeting of the commission must be made available to the public through live video streaming, and they must make a complete, unedited, archived video recording of each open meeting publicly available on the internet for a minimum of 5 years after the date of the meeting. Also, again, the House has other suggested amendments for the cross-file. Well, I don't think this has a cross-file. Yes, for the cross-file of this bill. The governor put in the third supplemental budget $8 million to give to the commission to make a universal scholarship application. So what that would do would be a system set up, so any scholarship that you could apply to the Office of Financial Assistance for, you could apply through one application, and that's what that money would do. The amendments set forth a variety of criteria that has to be included in that system, and it requires or authorizes the comptroller to release certain tax information to sync up with that application to, again, smooth the mechanisms of getting those the information verified from each student.
And it also has, it is the intent to reorganize into an independent agency.
Right, yes, I think so. I haven't,
Yeah, in Section 3, it is the intent of the General Assembly that the Higher Education Commission be reorganized to establish the Office of Student Financial Assistance as a separate independent agency in fiscal year 2024.
right. It's intent language, so it actually has no legal effect, but I think what they're striving to do is break off the Office of Financial Assistance into its own independent. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but.
Difference between that and MHEC?
The office is under the Maryland Higher Education Commission
No.
currently.
Do we want to break them off? I don't know anything about them, so.
Well, I'll be a little, do you want to speak first? MHEC has been a challenge for the last number of years for multiple reasons. It has been short-staffed, a lot of complaints about competency. It has been, I hate to use, I don't know what else, like a stepchild, and that's not to be dismissive of stepchildren. No one has paid attention to it, and, you know, it's the tail wagging the dog. USM is really shaping policy, not MHEC. And I think there have been complaints from the scholarship piece of the department of things getting done or not being done. And I think the House is not happy with it. And they think one solution is to break off the scholarship into a separate agency. Some would say blow up MHEC and start over. But again, I think we'll have another year to look at this. This is intent language. I don't know what the solution is, but there are a lot of challenges. I mean, that's my subjective view of this. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stacy, I wonder, can you go back? I'm looking, this is additional language. I'm in the House bill. So it's separate from, so I am right now on page 4, lines 11 through 15 about the comptroller. Yeah. Page 4, lines 11 through 15, but it seemed like there was modified language beyond that, or is this?
Yes, so I'm describing you conceptual amendments, and if it is your determination, I can bring you actual language tomorrow morning, if you would prefer to see it before you vote on it.
Let's hold it.
Yeah, so I'm particularly interested in security, privacy issues, and who's going to get to see people's private financial information and how that's going to get.
Well, it's just, this is tax verification.
Yes.
So students, in order to qualify under income eligibility, have to release their parents have to release certain tax income
Yes.
information, right? So, the same they provide for the FAFSA is kind of the same that goes into that.
Yeah, I don't think it changes it. I think it aligns it with this new common application.
Right.
So it will feed into the common application.
So it would automatically, once a student applies, the goal is for that, is to have authorization so that if the comptroller now has authority to just send it right to the commission instead of the middleman of the student having to go to the comptroller and get that information, or to separately provide the tax returns in order to get the income verification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Still interested.
let's hold till tomorrow when we have language. And finally, 11:15.
So House Bill 1115, Baltimore City, alcoholic beverages, license and outdoor table service privileges. This emergency bill alters the hours of sale and annual license fee relating to a public market license in Baltimore City, as well as the total square footage of public market floor space in which designated vendors may generally sell alcoholic beverages. This is identical to SB 771 that was passed unanimously, except for one thing. So, and that would, the bill specifies circumstances under which the Baltimore City Board of License Commissioners may impose fees for the ancillary privilege of providing outdoor table or cafe service in conjunction with a temporary outdoor seating permit. So, the intent here would be that the House would alter the Senate version to look like this House bill.
We have a letter from the delegation.
We do have a letter from the delegation. From the Senate delegation? Yes.
Yep. Okay, I assume it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anybody
Yeah.
object? Vice Chair?
The House version allows alcohol to be sold 2 hours later on a Sunday, an hour later Monday through Thursday. I mean, I assume this was all policy stuff that was endorsed by the delegation. And cuts the fee. Okay.
I have a letter.
Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, 10-0-1.
More drunk people.
11, that was HB 1115. But 771 is in the House, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Goodman, that takes care of your list? Okay, if you want to work virtually.
You're excused.
Okay. You care who goes first?
I only have 4 bills. So
Okay. Okay. Ms. Morton.
All right. House Bill 784. Sorry, I think I brought in the wrong thing. Oh, there we go. 784. Department of Natural Resources Irreplaceable Natural Areas Program Establishment. This bill establishes the Irreplaceable Natural Areas Program in the Department of Natural Resources. The purpose of the program is to preserve Maryland's native biodiversity on state-owned lands managed by the department for current and future residents of the state.
Okay. I'm
No
sorry?
amendments.
Not, first of all, we need to move the bill, which, we're moving the bill. There's a second. Discussion on the bill. Seeing none. Anybody object to the bill? Seeing no red lights. 784 passes 10-0-1.
House Bill 884, State Conservation Land, Old Growth Forest Management. This bill was up on our voting list in the previous voting session. The bill requires the Department of Natural Resources to manage certain state conservation land in a certain, that contains old growth forest as specified in the bill, in a manner that prohibits logging. There is an amendment in your voting packet. So that amendment appears on page last page, very back, being offered by Senator Hester. This would say that the land must be managed in a way that prohibits logging except when used as a silvicultural practice to protect forest health. There's also an amendment on the preceding page, page 23, offered by Senator Pinsky, that would include natural resource management areas in the land covered by the bill. So right now, the bill only covers state parks and wildlife management areas. The Pinsky Amendment would add natural resources management areas.
I'm sorry, Senator.
884.
Yeah, excuse me. We discussed this yesterday. We held it 884.
And the two amendments are in the packet.
There's an amendment on page 23 and 24.
The packet doesn't have a cover. It just says Bill 118 on the cover. Sorry.
I think we moved the bill yesterday, so it's before us. According to testimony, the bill currently will affect 350 acres, and with the Pinsky Amendment, it goes to 412 acres, which is about 1% of the forest cover. And this is old-growth forests, which have a special importance to the state and to biodiversity. So, yeah. The Pinsky Amendment's been moved and seconded to add natural resources management areas. Senator Carozza.
I just wanted to better understand the amendment. I know you said it's going from 350 acres, did you say, to 412 acres?
That's my understanding from testimony. I can't,
When you have a label like this, natural resources management areas, does that then open up new areas for the future? And I'm asking because I don't know, and I don't know if that's a question for the Department of Natural Resources.
we'll ask committee counsel whether it's a defined term and how many fit under that category.
So it's a term that's defined in regulation. The Department of Natural Resources has a number of different lands that are owned by the state, that are managed by the department, but they are designated as different things depending on how they're used. So you have state parks, which are managed for the purpose of recreation and conservation. You have wildlife management areas, which are managed primarily for the purpose of protecting wildlife. And then you have natural resources management areas, which are kind of mixed-use areas. So the Y Island Natural Resource Management Areas, the one that the senator, that the chair referenced, that where we know there is some old-growth forest. But it's a specific designation. There are certain areas that are designated by the department as natural resource management areas.
So this amendment means that wherever there's the old-growth forest in these natural resource management areas, is that?
Correct. So this would say, if the department is aware that there's old-growth forest on parkland, wildlife management area, under the chair's amendment, natural resources management area, they would have to manage that particular area in a way that prohibits logging.
And I'm asking the question, do we know how much acreage is in natural resources management areas overall?
I do not.
I don't know if we know that, but it's my understanding that of old growth within natural resource, there are 62 acres. Because there's a definition DNR uses for old growth. So in other words, whatever the universe is that falls under natural resource management, there's a smaller universe that are also designated old growth. And at least according to the testimony of however many acres that is, and I do not know the answer to that, Senator Carozza, 62 acres. And earlier I said the total covered by this of old growth, 412 acres, it wasn't 1%, it was 0.1% of state-owned lands.
And I did find that from the State Park Investment Commission that met this interim, their report indicates that natural resources management areas comprise 27,617 acres.
Going in on the old growth forest areas.
Correct.
So we have 27,000 acres of natural resource management areas.
Correct.
But what we don't know of those 27,000 acres, how much is, do we have an assessment of how much is?
We do, and that's the number
That-
that the chair has
Is that the
referenced.
350 to 412 acres? Is that how you get there?
My
Yes.
understanding, and I'm not an expert, that adding natural resource management area that are old growth, which is defined, they have to be there for I don't know how many years, would add 62 acres to the total amount. So only 62 acres are defined as old growth within those 27,000 acres.
And that's from the, an old growth forest inventory was last completed in 2006,
Okay.
so.
Okay, on the amendment, adding, yeah, sure. Senator Ellis, then Senator Gallion.
Yeah, and so, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was wondering, the definition of old growth, I mean, you alluded to it, but you said you didn't know exactly. Is it defined, I couldn't find it in the short bill. Is it defined anywhere in statutes?
So it's in the bill.
It's in the bill?
So it's in the bill on page 2, but that's the definition that was used. It's the definition that is currently used by the department. It's the definition that was used when they did that old growth forest inventory.
So what is,
At least 5 acres in size with a preponderance of old trees, of which the oldest exceed at least half the projected maximum attainable age for the species, and exhibits several, in addition to that, it must exhibit several of the following characteristics. Shade-tolerant species are present in all age and size classes. Randomly distributed canopy gaps are present. High degree of structural diversity characterized by multiple growth layers. Accumulation of dead wood of varying size and stages of decomposition, and pit and mound topography. I don't know what
okay.
that means.
Well, thank you. So I was looking at another bill. That's why I didn't see it. I was looking at 784, so thank you for that.
Just
This is
to clarify one thing,
80.
60-some acres, the amendment would add 60-some acres, but
That's my understanding.
that's off of data from 2006, so potentially that number is going to be could be a lot higher. You could have a lot more if they haven't, it's been 15 years since they identified that 60-some acres. So that's 60-some acres, that really probably doesn't mean too awful much if they haven't done this since 2006. So.
Yeah, and again, we don't know if the tree's attainable age is 100 years and they have to have at least 50 years. But yes, if it gives them 15 more years and they were 35 years and they reach 50 on a 100-year-old expected tree, it could add more to the 62. I mean, look, yeah. The question is, do we want to protect old growth forests? It's a policy question. Okay, on the amendment, roll call.
Senator Kagan? Aye. Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Yes. Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? Yes. Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? No. Senator Simonaire, no. And Senator Penske? Yes. Senator Penske, yes. 9-2.
9-2, the bill's amended before us, discussion.
Senator Hester had that amendment too. So Senator Hester's amendment is on the last page. This would say that The old-growth forest has, the land has to be managed in a manner that prohibits logging, except when used as a silvicultural practice to protect forest health. Silvicultural practice means a forest management practice. Three, line 10.
Okay, Senator, I'm sorry, I interrupted, please.
So the intent of this amendment was to make sure that in old-growth forests, which I care deeply about, that that we're doing like fire management, insect management practices carefully. I'm not sure this amendment as drafted is the best it could be. I think it may be overly broad. I don't know if there's a way to narrow it, but I mean, that was my concern. In some of the research that I did, we came across COMAR 810203, which talks about protective installations and practices. And I don't know if this, you know, this would fall underneath that part of COMAR. Does council know? What it says, it says, Part E of this COMAR, protective installations practices, wildland should be protected from fire, animals, insects, disease, and erosion in a manner which has minimal adverse effects on the wildland ecosystem, subject to conditions the Secretary considers desirable. Every effort will be made to provide protection with minimal disruption by locating protective installations and practices outside or adjacent to the wildland. So I just didn't, one of my constituents actually shared this with me hearing our wonderful debate, and said, well, if it falls under COMAR, this specific thing, then it's okay.
All right.
So do the categories of land referenced in this bill, do they fall, would these protective installations and practices be applicable to the types of land under this bill?
Give me a second. That's going to take a little bit of time.
While she's looking at that, I think logging is a very specific term of cutting down things for sale.
Right.
And I think that prohibits logging except,
That's what I said. I don't think it's drafted quite right.
no, I don't believe it is. And I'm not sure whether for fire safety, that would supersede. I don't know if that's your question.
That's
to
basically my
council.
question, yes. Fire safety or like infestations, I mean, sometimes if you've got the only way to control something, if you've got an infestation is to take down a bunch of trees.
I think logging is a very explicit practice.
And so I'm asking, I agree with you, I'm asking for your help or staff's help,
I don't want to give you definitive because I don't know
right?
how the code is read in other sections. Senator, while we're waiting.
My understanding from picking up on our discussion yesterday and with the amendment that Senator Hester has offered, which I understand is in coordination with the Department of Natural Resources, that this is an amendment that the Maryland Forest Association has requested. So
The specific section of COMAR that you referenced currently applies only to wildlands, which is, again, another specific designation. So it would not, that language right now would not apply to a natural resources management area, for example. But are you saying you would like to take that language and reproduce it and say something along those lines for old growth forest?
I think we need something to protect them and make sure that they're healthy. And I do not want to log these. I want to make clear, I don't want to log old growth forests.
Yeah, and I don't want to use that excuse to log. In other words, I'm not surprised the industry is happy with this amendment.
And that's why I said I was
No,
not.
I'm
We're all on the same
responding
page.
to the senator here, the other senator, that I'm not surprised this was promoted by them, because someone could say, oops, this is a problem area, we should be able to log, knock down those trees and sell them. So I don't think we want an excuse to get rid of our old-growth forests. I just don't know if there's a general law or practice that allows them to take whatever actions they need if, there's a diseased trees. Senator Ellis.
Yeah, I think the vice chair was before me,
Okay.
so.
Vice Chair, then Senator Ellis.
He never looks to his right, Senator Ellis. Thank you. It's not his style.
I look to my left and you're.
Exactly.
As you should.
My understanding is that, that this bill would not preclude removing a tree or a number of trees if there is insect infestation, because obviously, if there is infestation that could spread, it could diseasify, I'm making up a word now, a whole forest. And so understanding that we might need to prune or address sort of one or two or a small section, I think, as you said, that logging isn't the precise word, but
What makes you comfortable? What line in the bill makes you comfortable that that is an allowable practice?
oh, that's,
Madam
If-
Vice Chair, can I go back to the committee council for a minute?
Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to take, again, that language that you referenced, the Comar language, which again, right now, that is just applicable to wildlands, but we could reproduce that or something and say, this subsection may not be interpreted to prohibit installations and practices to protect from fire or something like that, something based off of that.
Narrow.
Yeah, from fire, animals, insect disease, or erosion in a manner that has minimal effect on the ecosystem. That's the language from the Comar section.
Mr. Chair, recommend we move the bill and amend it on the floor next year.
Well, I think we have an amendment. Just to clarify from the Department of Natural Resources that they are listening, they're looking for a very narrow window to cut trees in very specific scenarios that were just described: fire, disease, infestation of bugs. So I think we're trying to narrow this.
Senator, the problem is their amendment from the industry, it's not from DNR, it's from the industry, that it's attached to logging. And I think we want to separate it from the concept of logging, because then it would be an excuse to buy and sell and remove those trees. I think what the committee council suggested off of Senator Hester is we have a separate section that says none of this is meant to prohibit the department from engaging in tree management to, in the case of fire or infestation. That's different. We don't want to mess with the no logging. We don't want to hook those two things together. That's the point. So we can do it from the floor, or if people are comfortable with committee council having a separate section, taking language from, what section?
So this is from Comar 08, 01, 02, 03. So it would say, nothing in this section may be interpreted to prohibit the department from taking actions to protect old-growth forests from fire, animals, insect disease, and erosion in a manner that has minimal adverse effects on the ecosystem and is subject to the conditions the secretary considers desirable.
Senator, is that a replacement amendment that you see as friendly?
I love that amendment.
Okay. Okay, hold it. The amendment is before us. The substitute Hester amendment is before us. That's what we're debating. So Let's speak for it or against it. Senator Carozza.
Just a clarification, and if I misspoke, I apologize, but the Maryland Forest Association, who's been working with the Department of Natural Resources on this bill and with the other stakeholders, that they are a forest community. They are not representing the whole forest industry. So I want to be clear on that because they have been working in good faith on this bill.
Yeah. But there are other people who work with tree associations and are not groups that log. A number of those people are people who are part of the industry that logs for their profession. That was my point. Anyway, we're on the amendment, the replacement Hester amendment or substitute Hester amendment. Discussion, anybody wish to vote against that amendment? Seeing none, the amendment's adopted. The bill as amended. Discussion? Sure.
The amendment, I know we kind of did it on the patch together. What does the amendment actually say now?
We adopted the first amendment, the Pinsky amendment.
Right.
And the second amendment, get as close as you can.
Yeah, I'm just taking the language from Comar. So nothing in this section may be interpreted to prohibit the department from taking action to protect old-growth forest from fire, animals, insect disease, and erosion in a manner that has minimal adverse effects on the ecosystem, and subject to conditions the secretary considers desirable.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So could we add in that amendment, non-commercial? So you don't have the folks going in to take care of animal, insect problems with these equipment that just tear up the forest. So
Well,
could
it
we-
says that the
The
department is the
department,
one
so
that's
the
doing it.
department could contract with a company to do this under the guise of animal management. But when you have an old-growth forest, it's desirable for some of these old trees to fall because they're a habitat for wildlife, and nutrients for the ground. So, we don't want a commercial company to be contracted, I believe, to go in and do this forest management practice.
Look, I'm sympathetic, Senator. For some of their cutting, they may actually do some contracting already. So I don't want to prohibit that. But I do think you make a good point, and maybe we should put in some additional language saying for selective cutting and no clear cutting.
Yes.
You can put it in wherever you want to put it in.
Clear cut for infestation. You might have to wipe out an entire
Okay.
I think reproducing the language that is currently being used for wildlands, I think that gets us pretty close, just because they know what that means. They know wildlands. I don't know.
Senator, I think we should keep track of this over the next few years and see if they're going into, hopefully the advocates who have been focused on old growth forest will watch this very carefully and closely to see whether it's fulfilled. I mean, you're more than happy to offer an amendment.
Well, I mean, I did to add, non-commercial, to add that to the amendment. Because, I've read and heard about folks abuse in other states a provision like that under certain administrations at the federal level to use fire control and insect to just clear cut and commercially. And so that has happened in other areas and mainly federal lands. And so, I just feel that if we can close that loophole, that'll go a great way in really protecting our old growth forests.
Okay, Senator, repeat the amendment.
So just add to your amended Senator Hester's amendment, just put in non-commercial forest management.
Okay. Is there a second? Senator, I'm not sure I'm seeing a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want the second part of, so in Comar, I reproduced the first sentence, but there's another provision that says every effort will be made to provide protection with minimal disruption by locating protective installations and practices outside of or adjacent to the old growth forest? Or does
I'm
that
not sure
go
what
far,
means.
too far?
I don't know what that means. I mean, is there language that says every effort will be made to retain as much of the forest as possible? Is that in the woodlands language?
In the wildlands
In the wildlands
language?
language?
Well, so that's what, it's effort will be made to provide protection with minimal disruption. Because again, that's, the wildlands is broader than just woodlands. It's
Right.
not just talking about woodlands.
Right. Okay, we have the bill with the replacement substitute amendment. Senator Gallion.
Let's listen to the discussion here and the genesis of the bill. Are these old growth forests under attack where this stuff's getting cleared out all the time and this bill's so needed because we got all these awful practices happening, or is this just a prospective bill in case somebody wants to do something? Because I haven't heard of anybody say that these things are really being damaged or, under attack or I mean, what we talked earlier about the bills we really need to pass and ones we don't. I just wonder if this is one that really rises to the level of something we absolutely have to pass and send to the floor. Just maybe that's a rhetorical question, but
Are any of the people in the audience?
are they under attack? Can you tell us how they're under attack?
Are any of you familiar with this bill and working on behalf of the bill?
Good evening, Drew Schmidt-Perkins representing Jeff Horstman. Again, thank you for the question. This is prospective. Many of us have had to defend these old growth forests in the past and didn't have the protections. We then thought with all these different management areas and wildlands, they were protected. And then when there was a faint chance of harm coming to one of the woods, I think, that people realized that the protections were really not there as needed. So there's not an immediate threat right now, but it became apparent that there could be a threat. And again, it's 400 and how many acres now of lands that we're trying to protect.
Okay, we'll vote it up or down. It's the bill as amended with the Pinsky and the Hester amendments. Roll call.
Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington?
Yes.
Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire? Senator Simonaire, no. Senator Pinsky?
Yes.
Senator Pinsky, yes. 9-2.
2. Okay, we'll go a little while longer. I'd like to clear the decks a little bit. Okay.
So next one is House Bill 1201, Water Pollution, Oyster Repletion Supplemental Environmental Projects. This is the cross-file of Senate Bill 876, which this committee did move. The original bill, this was a bill that imposed a surcharge on certain water pollution violations and directed that surcharge to a special fund to be used for oyster restoration and repletion activities. The House has essentially, in their version of the bill, kind of struck that initial idea and instead The bill requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to, one, prioritize specified supplemental environmental projects involving oyster repletion for specified water pollution violations in proximity of an oyster population, and two, include oyster repletion projects in the supplemental environmental projects database required by Senate Bill 90/House Bill 595 if one or both of those bills takes effect.
I'm sorry. This a cross-file?
It is a cross-file, but it is in a very different posture than the original bill and the bill that was passed by the Senate.
Was that the Bailey bill?
That was the Bailey bill.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Co-sponsor, and I did not realize it came back in this form. I'd like to be able to consult with Senator Bailey and Delegate Jacobs if I could, but I also don't want to slow it down because,
Well, there are tough choices we have to make. Senator. You want to hold it, we can hold it. You want to move it, we can move it. You know,
I'm going to move it.
okay.
Are we going to concur with this,
Well,
or conform, or?
No, it's just either passing
Right.
this bill or not.
Right. Right.
Okay, so what is your motion, Senator?
I'm trying to get a little information.
I mean, and we just got this. It initially went to rules, and we just got it. This committee just got it on the 5th, so nobody's had very long to look at it.
We'll hold it. You've got one more?
I've got one more. All right, this one is, should be a little less challenging. House Bill 1381. This bill establishes, it's 318, sorry. Environment firefighting training oriented strand board prohibition. This, I've got the wrong bill here, sorry. This bill prohibits a person from setting oriented strand board on fire or burning oriented strand board for firefighting training purposes. Oriented strand board is a multi-layered board that, one, is made from strands of wood together with a binder by the application of heat and pressure, and two, is intended to be used as a covering material for roofs, subfloors, and walls when fastened to supports. Person who violates the bill's prohibition is subject to a civil penalty of up to $500 for a violation and up to $1,000 for a second or subsequent violation.
It's supported by the state firefighters. Anybody want to make a motion? Been moved by Senator Washington, seconded by somebody. Senator Lamb. Anybody object to it and want to be recorded in the next? Sure.
So why is this necessary if it's, okay, used for firefighting training? So firefighters use this now, and someone decides it's not a good thing? It's 1381.
I can try.
Try, yeah.
So oriented strand board, the definition, it just has like some chemicals in there. They don't want to get burned up because they cause, kind of like the same thing with PFAS where you're trying to, in training exercises, firefighters are wearing SCBA. They have to, afterwards they need to clean their gear and all that stuff.
SCBA.
What's that?
SCBA.
Self-contained breathing apparatus. Turnout gear. You have to wash all that stuff when you're done, put it back in service. I just wonder how this is enforced where, I mean, are the oriented strand board police going to show up when they're having a house burning and make sure that there's, I mean, I just don't see how this is really enforced, but,
So what is the oriented strand board? Is that used in construction for homes? And it's like the plywood that's,
I think it's got that like finish on it.
yeah, finished, and that's used in construction for homes?
I think this is for training.
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying
No,
strand
for
board.
training, I think,
So I'm getting to that question, so.
Please.
So the thing is, I think these boards are used in home construction. That's why firefighters practice with them, because when your house catch on fire, all these different materials have a different burn pattern. And so if these products are used in homes, and we tell firefighters they can't practice with them, then we're putting our, I believe, if that's the case, we're putting our citizens at great risk from just understanding these things. I know the chemicals in there are bad. We don't want that in the air. But what's worse is if they're used in homes, if they're still used in home construction, and we can't have firefighters practice with this, then it might be a problem. And I'm just a little concerned that we can prohibit it, but if we need to prohibit firefighters using it, we need to prohibit them from using it in constructing homes.
Vice Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Senator, you know, near my home, near College Park, is what's called MIFRE, the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, University of Maryland. I don't know if Senator Gaines be it. About a 5-story building. They take recruits in, they burn it, you get used to the smoke. They support this as well as the firefighters. So I think they agree it shouldn't be used in training. I don't know if we can go in and start telling construction that you can't use this type of board, but when they select houses or they construct buildings for training, I think it's saying going forward, you shouldn't use a strand board. That's how I read the bill. I don't know if it's more than that or not. I mean, if the people who train the firefighters think it's good to minimize the use of the strand board in the training and they can still train without using it, I mean, I'm going to follow their lead. Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know.
Well, that's why I sense I'm missing something also. I mean,
Just one other point, and I'll probably vote for it because the firefighters are in favor of it, but they don't have to use this stuff anyway. So if they're saying, okay, we agree with this bill, we don't think it should be used, they already cannot do that. So it takes us back to the thing of which bills we want to pass, but, you know, if the firefighters are on, you know, if it comes to a vote, I'll probably vote for it. I'm just not sure how necessary it is.
I was just going to quickly point out that there are a lot of favorable in there, and there's, from the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, they say that there's tremendous concerns about these chemicals, they're carcinogenic, and the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute recognized the potential problem associated with the production many years ago, and so they're not using it. So they're already not using it, so both you guys are right. This particular training institute.
Can we hold this to tomorrow? I want to look into a couple of things. Thank you.
Do some checking to see if this is needed and what's happening. Apparently, Senator Carrozza has received more information on, which one?
1201.
1201, Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amended version of HB 1201 was worked out with MDE, so we're going to move HB 1201 and conform SB 876 to 1201.
Motion to move the bill. Is there a second? Okay, discussion. Anybody have to check with their oysterman back home? Seeing not, anybody object to adopting the House 1201? 11-0, report to the floor. You're done? I'm done. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we're not done.
1201.
Okay, we'll do a few. Folks, we have two.
20 minutes.
Hold on. We have 10 or 12. We can do some and decide what time we want to end it so you can get home and eat some dinner. We probably have tomorrow between sessions, but we also have other bills. But I'm sorry?
I've got one I'm concerned about.
On this list? Okay, 20 minutes and then we stop?
Yeah.
But we are meeting tomorrow. We have two bills tomorrow we have to do before session.
Does that mean we're not coming in tonight?
That's not.
Session is at 10. I don't know if it'll take us, we better leave 9 o'clock. Okay, we'll go for 20 minutes. Senator?
House Bill 968. Dental assistants. Kipke has the House bill, I have the cross file. The warring parties have reached a compromise, and we have an amendment in the packet.
So I don't have the packet on my person, but the amendment essentially clarifies that, oh, sure, that would be useful. So HB 969, it codifies portions of the scope of practice, thank you, for dental assistants. 968, thank you, it's late. Codifies portions of the scope of practice for dental assistants, requires a dental assistant to perform intraoral photography only under supervision, which is distinct from current scope of practice for dental assistants, requires the certification of expanded function dental assistants before dentists may perform one of the following tasks, which include placing dental sealants, performing coronal polishing, monitoring nitrous oxide, which is sleep gas, and additional tasks as authorized in regulations so long as they work under supervision. It establishes criteria to become a certified dental assistant, which is now changed to expanded function dental assistants. So the amendments sponsored and kind of jointly offered by Senator Penske and Senator Riley clarify that this expanded function dental assistant will not be able to perform complex dental prophylaxis, which is cleaning, by clarifying the scope of coronal polishing,
Okay,
that term.
the amendment in your packet on page 22 was superseded by another amendment, which,
They're the same, they're the exact same.
no, they aren't.
They're
The-
supposed to be.
No, they're not that different. It makes it clearer the role of the dental assistant opposed to the dental hygienist.
Right.
It clarifies that they're basically not stepping on the toes of the dental hygienist.
Yes.
So,
So which language are we going based off of? Because this is language from the lobbyist. I'll need to see that language, so I
Okay,
know how to
well-
draft it.
we'll have it. I don't know. There were two versions is all I'm,
It's different. I think this is the right one.
yes.
Okay, I'm making copies.
So in other words, the new A says, as deemed necessary and appropriate, secondary to the more complex dental procedures of dental prophylaxis, such as removal of hard and soft deposits and stain of the tooth crown, root surface, and periodontal pocket, and the rest of the language remains the same. So they add a sentence that the hygienist wanted that's a little bit clearer. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the situation. The dentists, I should defer to the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The dentists are looking for expanded scope of practice for their chair-side dental assistants, but they don't want to impose on their dental hygienists, because if you go to a very active dental practice, like I did last Monday, everybody's kind of moving around, but in their own scope of practice, in their own area of comfort. This has to do with the dental assistant in conjunction with the dentist doing things the dental hygienist does not do.
Not to put too fine a point to it, there was a concern among dental hygienists that this was inching into their territory and hiring people who were younger with less experience that would basically push them out with less skills. So this is an effort to make it clear that they will not be harmed and they still have their expertise, roughly.
Roughly.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, good Senator Riley. So what is the difference between a dental assistant and a dental hygienist as far as scope of practice, licensure, training? And could you explain that? If you-
I'll direct you to the amendment, if you have it in front of you. If you
The one that
read,
just came in?
yeah. If you read letter A, complex dental procedures of a dental prophylactics, such as removal of hard and soft deposits, stains of the tooth crown, root surface, and periodontal pocket, that's a dental hygienist. And that cannot be done by a dental assistant.
Oh, so this
And-
amendment strikes out
It
these
co-
lines.
it codifies the fact that a dental assistant that doesn't have the exact experience and training as a dental hygienist can't do what a dental hygienist does because it's not good. But the bill itself goes into extreme detail about what a dental assistant may do, such as rinsing and aspiration of an oral cavity. You know, you drink the fluid, you spit in the cup, and retraction of the lips. Doctor's in there with two hands and needs some help to open up the mouth. So the bill is very specific about dental assistant work. And dental hygienists are actually a regulated, licensed group. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's
Okay.
very clearly defined in the bill and in code.
So,
I believe there's a dental hygienist program, it's like a year or two program. A lot of community colleges, Anne Arundel has a dental hygienist program. This is to be determined, but it's a lot fewer hours.
dental assistants?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a current licensure for dental assistants, or this bill establishes it?
There is, but it expands their authority. So in other words, there is in code something describing dental assistants, which I hate to call it lower, but not the same as a dental hygienist. And this adds 4 areas. They can remove some stain, they can monitor nitrous oxide, for example. They couldn't do that before. They're already in code. This adds a few other areas. And the question became, is it too much? And that's what the hygienists were concerned about.
Okay. So are they licensed, currently dental assistants? Do they have to go?
They're
through-
certified.
They have to certified, so
Right.
it's education, experience, and then an exam, you know?
It's a course of study, and then a certification application. Whether that course of study includes an exam, I would be surprised if it didn't. They have to meet an hourly program of study course and then complete an application, meet a criminal history records check for the actual dental assistants. And now with the expanded function dental assistants, there will be exam, additional program of study, and the same kind of baseline age and background requirements.
Okay. So this bill will put those additional requirements on dental assistants?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I don't know if the bill's before us, but we'll assume it's moved and seconded. The replacement amendment, and whether it's a Riley or a Pinsky amendment, it came from the stakeholders, regardless. Any objection to adopting the amendment? Seeing none, that's adopted. The bill is amended. 968, anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, 3, 5, 7, that'll be 10-0-1, and that will go to the floor.
In such a big hurry to get it through, we'll just focus on the House bill.
Okay, let's go to 375.
He's representing dental hygienists, so he's looking over our shoulder to make sure they're
All right, House Bill 375, Open Meetings Act Application and Enhanced Requirements, Maryland State Agency Transparency Act of 2022. This is a cross-file to Senate Bill 269, which last week, or actually this week, we concurred. So the distinctions between this bill and the Senate bill are thus, but in general, this is the bill that expands open meetings requirements for regional agencies. So instead of 24 hours in advance, certain meeting materials have to be posted 48 hours in advance, and several other more expanded functions for these regional authorities. So under the specific House bill, the House bill doesn't exempt each entity under the expanded authority, doesn't exempt their educational visits and site tours from the definition of the Open Meetings Act. This House bill does not add Historic St. Mary's Commission to the list of public bodies with expanded requirements. This bill does not have that uncodified intent language at the end that states the bill should not prevent a public body from modifying their agenda if the need arises. It also does not have the intent language to suggest that it will not deviate or minimize the Public Information Act in those provisions. And we did concur with these changes, but they have not been adopted on this House version.
Conform 375 to Senate Bill 269, which just passed yesterday.
Okay, discussion? Any objection to that? Okay, we'll amend it and send it back.
I also have a concurrence that's not listed.
Please.
So concurrence request came in for Senate Bill 199, which was in a series of sunset extensions. So this particularly was a sunset extension for the State Board of Architects, which if you recall, we amended down to allow the sunset to end in 2025. The House got a hand on it and reinstated the 10-year sunset. So their sunset is 2033.
What's the pleasure?
Madam Vice Chair, you instigated that very good attitude.
Not concur.
Yay!
I don't even know what bill we're on. I want the architects. Oh, yeah, no, that's a problem.
That's not on there. It's a concurrence.
Concurrence.
The non-concurrence, ask them to recede, set up a conference if they want, whatever.
Boom.
Okay, that's done.
I talked to Stacy earlier and it was omitted off the list, but that, we got everybody on the same page on that House Bill 667 about the Harford County liquor. This, will that be like first off tomorrow, or can we do it tonight without Stacy?
About it?
Yes, I talked to her today at lunch.
Okay. Let's just move it now.
Okay, so the amendment just pushes back the date 1 year, the implementation date. And that takes care, I believe, of the concerns of the liquor board. And it gets, I talked with the city of Havre de Grace, that was their idea, so.
Fine.
Does that work?
So, is there any objection to adopting it, putting back the effective date 1 year? Seeing not, 667? Jason, just tell, as you go out, tell Stacy that we approved it. She may be listening, I don't know. Okay, folks, I don't want to burn people out more than they are, and obviously, we're trying to respond to all these bills. So, we just passed 667, added that year with the amendment.
I'm not dead, I could have come back in.
I thought you left and working virtually.
That's a different bill.
That's a different bill. Okay, okay, look, the two bills tomorrow that we have are the virtual school, the House bill and the Senate bill. They were very different, but we're merging them and rewriting them. And also a House bill on the mental health days from Delegate Washington. They're two of the cross-file bills and the mental health That's what we're dealing with tomorrow. We'll get your reprint. We're still near complete negotiation, so we will amend their bill, they'll amend our bill, we'll concur, and it'll be done. So that's the plan for tomorrow. Is that on our list?
Yeah, it's on our list, so if you want to, I'll ask
If we have time, we'll do it. If not, we'll do it after the first session. Okay? Thank you.